hour earlier. The damn alarm almost woke her up. Grabbing the phone, which almost crashed into the wall, I turned off the alarm and immediately hugged my petite queen. She moved, teasing me with her warm, naked body, but soon calmed down, pressing her cheek to my chest. Kissing her brown hair and inhaling her intoxicating scent, I smiled thoughtfully. How did this happen? Some people I can't wait to get rid of, especially after sex, and sleeping over is out of the question. But I don't want to let this baby go. What difference does it make if we miss classes? What difference does it make if everyone is worried about us? The main thing is that we do not lose each other. I fell head over heels, Hummer. Although I categorically avoided the word love, I did not deceive myself. Marianne was braver than me and confessed first. Meanwhile, I wanted to show my feelings through actions. Yes, you knocked me off my feet, Ivushka. Now I am your slave. I will carry you in my arms, fulfill your whims, kiss your plump lips and bring you to orgasms around the clock. No one knows how James Hammer can love. You'll find out, baby. After lying there for a while, hugging my beauty and lost in my thoughts, I realized that I would no longer be able to fall asleep. My brain was fully awake, my body was excited, and my chest was filled with euphoria. This won't work. Carefully releasing Marianne from my arms, I quietly got out of bed, and looking at her sleepy face, pulled on my pants and t-shirt. She will wake up soon and want to eat. I wanted to anticipate my girlfriend's wishes. I hoped she would now understand that she was my girlfriend, and that she won't be able to give up her problems. Surprisingly, it was her reaction that stimulated and inspired me to hustle. I wanted to make Marianne happy, to see sincere emotions on her face. All this was new and unfamiliar to her. She was used to struggling with life without accepting its benefits, and I desperately wanted to change that. Leaving the room, I headed to the dining room barefoot, with a stupid grin on my face. Neither Margaret nor anyone else was in the dining room or kitchen, but I didn't plan on asking for help. Margaret was worried about her daughter, who was probably taking a few days off, and she really needed rest. Looking into the refrigerator, I wondered what to cook. My cooking skills were limited, but there was something I could do, especially when inspired. Finally, I settled on bacon and egg sandwiches. I won't lie, it took some effort, but the breakfast turned out just perfect. As I placed the plates on the tray, I hummed the last Bastille song, rejoicing at the thought of our breakfast together. I noticed an unusual desire to care. Now that our status is finally clear, her cute little ass will be under my jealous watch. As I finished washing the dishes, I heard footsteps in the kitchen. Thinking it was Margaret, I turned with a smile. But it was Mom. The smile instantly disappeared. I turned away, instantly defensive, remembering her attitude towards Marianne and not wanting her to suspect anything. Not now, damn it. Good morning, Mom greeted firmly, folding her arms across her chest. Morning, I answered flatly. I didn't want to talk to her, but I didn't want to give her any reason to notice. Too late. She looked at my tray, not hesitating to come closer and examine it. That looks delicious. I've never seen you cook before. It's good that you have better things to do than watch me, I retorted. Mom, as if she hadn't heard, coolly remarked, Isn't that too much breakfast for one person? I met her eyes, trying to figure out what was bothering me about this family morning meeting. It didn't seem random. In the end, without saying anything, I grabbed the tray. But, turning towards the dining room, I heard, She spent the night in your room, didn't she? I pursed my lips and didn't even turn around. None of your business. I growled through clenched teeth. This has gone too far, James, Mom warned. I warned both you and her. I frowned, turned to her and placed the tray on a nearby table, realizing that a delicate conversation was inevitable. I warned you too. Stay away from this. She shook her head stubbornly. I am your mother, and I will always protect your interests and the interests of our family. You will not be with this girl, James, she said in a steely tone. You'll have to accept it. I should have been immune to her dictatorial bullshit by now, but this time I was caught off guard. Admit that I no longer care about your opinion, I said through clenched teeth, barely controlling my tone. You don't have to worry about my affairs with women. We both know she's not just another fling of yours. My observant mother raised an eyebrow, clearly sensing the reaction on my face. Do you think I'm blind? She grinned indulgently. Sneaking around with her, riding with her, cooking her breakfast. You're in love, my boy, but you made the wrong choice." I became angrier and more wary, so I tried not to be rude for now. "The only thing you need to know is that this is my choice. It's none of my business how you feel about it." "So you are ready to ruin her life?" Mom suddenly exclaimed, not letting me leave. I glanced at her warningly. "What are you talking about?" "I said, James, you two won't get together," she repeated coldly. "And if you try, I'll ruin this girl's life. I'll start by getting her expelled from the university. And believe me, she won't be able to get into any other school. Nowhere, but I won't stop. There, Marianne Willows will be in every blacklist. She won't be able to get a loan or a job anywhere, except maybe as a cleaner. Should I continue, or is that enough?" Rage clouded my mind, and her face, smoothed with expensive cosmetics, glowed with superiority. Approaching her, I angrily spat out, "You are a witch. What the hell do you want from her?" "I want her to stay away from you, James," she shouted defiantly. "If you really love her, you will do anything to make this happen." "Go to hell, Mom," I roared, knocking down hanging pots from the ceiling, which fell with a roar to the floor at her feet. "Your blackmail won't work. Just try to hurt her. I swear you will regret it. For that matter, I have cards. How do you think Dad will react to what he heard before he left? That his wife. He knows." Mom interrupted me with a scream. "He always knows what's going on in that house when he's not there." My rage suddenly subsided. I was not ready for this. "I'm afraid you'll be disappointed if you think you can count on Daddy's support. I spoke to him before I came to you," she said triumphantly. "His opinion of this girl is exactly the same as mine." I didn't want to believe it. Everything inside resisted reality, rushing from one extreme to another. "I'll talk to him. He will understand me and bring this narcissistic witch to reason. He will take my side. I know you'll hate me for this, but someday, believe me, someday, when you have your own children," my mother came up and touched my cheek with her hand, "you will understand me, James. You are my only son. You deserve better, not this." I pulled my face away and, looking into her eyes, said clearly, "I regret having your son." The mother's face showed confusion and resentment, but then all emotions were replaced by coldness. Swallowing, she stepped back, clasping her hands together. "I warned you, James. Do it wisely." With these words, she left, leaving me to grind the thoughts that were stuck in my head like fragments. I denied for a long time. No, she wouldn't dare. I won't let her hurt Marianne. But eventually a bitter realization came. I was outwitted like a boy and driven into a corner. I grabbed my head and started walking around the kitchen. "You always knew, you son of a bitch, that they would put a knife to your throat, that they will never allow absolute freedom. Damn governor's son. But I never thought that I would truly fall in love. Did I really drag Marianne into the heart of the storm? Damn, damn, damn." I knocked the breakfast tray I had so carefully prepared off the counter and slammed my fist into counter until my knuckles cracked. "Bitch!" My chest heaved, my heart pounded against my ribs, and my body trembled. "I will ruin this girl's life. If you really love her." Leaning against the wall, I sat on the floor, clutching my wet eyes with my fists. The bright morning turned to ashes, destroyed by the fire of my damned reality. I had no idea how to continue communicating with Marianne without hurting her. How can I protect her from the attacks of my caring parents? But I knew I had to make a decision right now. And if I had to push her away, it wouldn't give her any hope, even if it meant causing unbearable pain. A few minutes later, I was still lying on the floor, lost in thought, when I heard light footsteps approaching. Looking up, I saw Marianne standing in the doorway, sleepily rubbing her eyes. "James, what's happened?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I quickly wiped my eyes and forced myself to smile. "It's okay, baby. Just think." She frowned, unconvinced. "You're sure? You look upset." I stood up and walked over to her, hugging her. "I'm fine. Is it true?" She hugged me back tightly, and for a moment I considered telling her everything. But I couldn't. I had to protect her, no matter the cost. "Let's have breakfast," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "I made your favorite." She smiled at me, and for a moment all my worries disappeared. But I knew it wouldn't last long. I needed to find a way to keep her safe, even if it meant breaking both of our hearts. 4 months later, Marianne. The voice broke through the impenetrable darkness of deep sleep like a ray of light. It was a saving hand that pulled me out of the quicksand and prevented me from suffocating there. "Wake up, girl. Come on!" I opened my eyes and took a sharp breath, focusing on Sylvia's worried face. Her scarf slipped off, revealing short new hair, and her lips were pressed tightly together. She reached out and wiped away the moisture that had somehow appeared on my cheek. "Crying in your sleep again," she said with a hint of irritation. "And talk nonsense. Oh, he'll pay for what he did to you." I frowned and looked at the curtains, where the early morning rays were already creeping in, then at the clock. I was afraid I overslept, but no. There were still 30 minutes left before the alarm went off. Sitting up and leaning against the head of the bed, I rubbed my face with my hands. It was actually wet from tears, and my body was covered in sweat. I couldn't remember the dream, but I still felt a burning pain in my chest, and an image remained in my head, forcing me to relive the agony of nightmares once again. "Marianne?" My aunt turned to me cautiously. "Maybe we should contact a specialist? You don't tell me anything, but can you trust someone who can help? We will find the best." Frowning even more, I threw off the covers and stood up from the bed, interrupting her. "Why?" I asked from afar. "I'm fine, Sylvia. I'm not sick." "I never said you were sick, but your soul hurts, girl, and I am powerless to help." I went into the bathroom and closed the door tightly behind me. I didn't want to be rude, but any conversation about my condition instantly made me remember the reason that brought me here. I didn't need a doctor. I have long since recovered from nightmares. It was just a trigger for the new school year. Today was the 1st of September, the beginning of my second year, and the tests, because now our meetings were inevitable. I looked at my ghostly reflection in the mirror. If he had been expelled, how much easier life would have been, God. And at the same time, my heart was breaking from the understanding that in this case, I would never see him again. Never. Coming out of the bathroom, I forced myself to smile and went to the kitchen, where Sylvia was clanking the dishes. She stood at the sink, gloomily washing cups. Walking up, I gently hugged her from behind. "I'm not telling you because there's nothing to tell," I said in a soothing tone. "Everything is fine with me. Is it true? I may have been sick, but now I'm feeling better." She turned off the water and turned around, hugging me back. "Why are you so afraid of being weak?" she asked, confused. "You are not made of iron, my girl. You can't carry everything on your shoulders." "I can." My aunt fell silent, and I stepped back and adjusted the scarf on her head. "Go back to bed. It is too early." "I've already slept enough," she stubbornly protested. "Get ready, and I'll prepare breakfast. Today is a special day, the beginning of the second year of study. I will accompany you." With a wry smile, I nodded in agreement and trudged back to my room. I was in no hurry to get ready, although I had decided what to wear a week ago. New clothes, new shoes, new bags. I made a lot of money over the summer. Meanwhile, I still had a lot of money left that they paid me, but I was not going to relax. I couldn't even if I wanted to. I deliberately filled my days to the brim so as not to go crazy, because if I stopped, the pain would immediately pierce my heart with memories and thoughts. Truly a special day. This damn day hung over my head like a sword of Damocles, and the closer it came, the more adrenaline pounded in my heart. I had to cope, be patient whether I saw him or not. 4 months. It feels like 4 years have passed. I haven't seen James since that morning. He literally disappeared. I never showed up at the university again, or simply never met him, and I had to thank fate for that. It was as if our lives suddenly became parallel. Some said that he was expelled, others that he went abroad were just rumors. But I kept imagining a black G-Wagon at a pedestrian crossing near my house on the way from the university. And every time my soul was broken, every time my emotions were torn apart. I'm completely tired of this. It was only when the school year finally ended that I began to recover a little. A way out of severe depression that cut me off from the world. I didn't want to see anyone, even Polina. She kept pestering me, wanting to understand what was happening to me, but I kept running away, hiding my tears. I've lost a lot of weight. With a height of 165 centimeters, I weighed 47 kilograms. Sylvia was horrified when she returned home. First, she thought that my work and the stress of it had tired me out. Then she began to suspect that the trouble was much deeper. My aunt literally spoon-fed me, and I had to take care of her after chemotherapy. We were both recovering. She's almost completely recovered, and I thought I was getting better too. But today, everything inside me trembled with uncertainty, broke under the weight of doubts, and teetered on the brink of hysteria. Sylvia made French toast, but I barely took a bite of it. My mind was drowning in thoughts. Today there will be a ceremony and one lesson with our teacher on the square. A million scenarios were running through my head about how our meeting could happen. I desperately wanted not to think, not to imagine, not to worry, but it didn't work out. Never. Like an indelible stain. Pausing in front of the hallway mirror, I smoothed my slightly curled hair and straightened my knee-length black pencil skirt. It hugged my hips seductively, and the short red top accentuated my waist. On her feet were black suede sandals with comfortable heels, and to complete the look, a black leather bag. "You are a real beauty." Sylvia's voice came to me as she watched from the kitchen door, leaning against the frame. "I can't take my eyes off you." The university courtyard was full of students bustling around in anticipation of the new academic year. I walked towards the gathered crowd, trying to blend in, but feeling the eyes of every couple on me. Anxiety gnawed at me inside, but I kept my chin up, forcing myself to look confident. "Marianne!" A familiar voice called me, and I turned around and saw Polina waving her hand to me. Her presence was a small comfort in a sea of unfamiliar faces. "Hello!" I greeted her with a tight smile. "How was your summer?" Polina chatted about vacations, family, and summer work, but I had a hard time concentrating. My eyes continued to scan the crowd, trying to see James. He was supposed to be here today, right? The ceremony began, and we all stood in respectful silence as the dean greeted us. My heart was pounding in my chest. The tension was unbearable. As the performances continued, I noticed him. James stood on the opposite side of the courtyard, his tall figure unmistakable even in the crowd. He looked the same, but different. There was tension in his posture. There was a sternness in his gaze that was not there before. Our eyes met, and for a moment the world stopped. The noise of the crowd died down, and all I could hear was my own heartbeat. I saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes, followed by a storm of emotions: surprise, anger, and something else that I could not understand. The ceremony ended, and the crowd began to disperse. I stood frozen, not knowing what to do. James walked up to me, his expression unreadable. My feet were glued to the ground, and thousands of thoughts were racing through my head. "Marianne," he said, stopping a few feet from me. His voice was low, full of energy that sent shivers down my spine. "James," I answered, almost in a whisper. "I didn't think you'd come back," he said, looking into my eyes. "I could say the same about you," I replied, trying to keep my voice even. There was a long pause, the air between us filled with tension. Finally, he spoke again. "I need to talk to you. Can we go somewhere alone?" I nodded, unable to find my voice. We walked silently to a quiet corner of campus, away from prying eyes. When we were alone, he turned to me with a serious expression on his face. "I know you've been through a lot," he began, his voice softening. "I've had time to think about everything, and I want to make things right." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away. "James, it's not that simple. So much has happened." "I know," he interrupted, taking a step closer. "But I can't lose you, Marianne. I felt bad without you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this." His words broke down the walls I had built around my heart. The pain, anger, and fear returned, but so did love. Despite everything, I still loved him. "James," I whispered. "James," I whispered, feeling a rush of emotion. "I don't know if I can trust you again. You broke me." His face contorted in pain. "I know what I did, and I hate myself for it. But I have changed, Marianne. I swear I've changed. I want to fix the situation." I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "It won't be easy. It takes time." "I'm willing to wait," he said sincerely. "I'll do whatever it takes. Give me a chance." There was a long silence as I weighed his words. The logical part of me was screaming at me to leave to protect myself from more heartache. But my heart, my traitorous heart, still yearned for him. "Okay," I finally said. "We won't rush. You have a lot to prove." Relief showed on his face. "Thank you, Mariana. You won't regret it." We agreed to start over, to rebuild our relationship from scratch. It wouldn't be easy, and there were no guarantees. But for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. When we returned to the main part of campus, I felt determined. I was no longer the same person I used to be. Now I have become stronger and more resilient. And no matter what happened, I knew that I would be okay. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Classes, old friends, new faces. It was all a little overwhelming. But despite it all, I felt a sense of purpose. I was rebuilding my life, step by step. That evening, as I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the heartache, the struggle. It all brought me to this moment. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. Whatever the future held for me, I knew I would meet it face to face. Because I survived the worst and became stronger. And with this thought, I fell asleep, ready to face whatever tomorrow brings.